Hello and welcome back to the podcast, the Switchback with Connor Pack, and I'm joined here with my guest, Jasen Aussant. Welcome.
Hello.
I that's how you say your last name, right? I always feel like I'm saying it wrong.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty common sentiment across the board. I mean, I am not totally sure how to say it.
Okay.
I've heard so many variations from countless people, so I just like go with like someone just said Assant and it just like sounded well in English, so
Okay.
because it is like a francophone name,
Yeah.
so it doesn't translate very easily in English, but I liked how it sounded the way he pronounced it, so I was like I kept it.
That's good. But okay, who is Jasen? I mean, I know you, but the 12 listeners at home, maybe 13 now, they likely don't know who you are. So who are you? How do you know me, I guess?
Well, we were roommates, what, from 2021 to 22,
It was like
or
8
just
months. I think it was just
8 months in
2021.
22,
Yeah.
or
2021.
21?
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, time goes by too fast, but yeah, so I guess that's how we got to meet each other was as roommates, and then I guess our time as roommates has evolved into more of an acquaintanceship and then to a friendship.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's nice. I mean, I just moved to Calgary 8 months ago about, and I was like, we were roommates in Edmonton.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was there as a student at the University of Alberta, and then just kind of was in Edson for a bit, and then in Edmonton, now in Calgary, but I'm originally from Ottawa, Ontario, but I've lived in Alberta for about 5 years now, and so it's 5 years this summer. So
Oh.
time has gone by really fast, which
That's
is
fast.
is kind of well, it's always scary to think about time
Yeah.
when you're looking in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, and as well as like I just work in policy analysis and market analysis and government relations, and like I work in the agricultural domain, which is kind of weird because I mean I come from farm stock, but I'm not a farmer myself. I mean I'm an urban kid, but I mean I always was around. I always like visited farms as a kid and as a teenager, so I'm like well acquainted with the lifestyle and what goes on a farm, but
Yeah.
it just didn't necessarily think I'd be working in the agricultural sector, but so far it seems to be the sector that wants the little talent that I have they want it. So I mean sticking around with that for now.
Nice. I've talked to you about this, but I forget. Do you go to farms as part of your job, or are you just doing the analysis part of it? I kind of don't know what what you do.
When I worked with like Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, I mean never left my desk, so I just did the analysis. However, so far I haven't gone to a farm, but I did start out in the end of September, and so farmers are pretty busy during harvest, and so we usually don't go out and visit. I mean, a lot of our farming activities is actually going to be this summer, in I think yeah, June, July, August will be a lot of farm tours or farm visits. But I haven't gone to a farm yet, specifically. But I mean, I have gone to like agri trade expo or expos where they sell the farm equipment, and
Nice.
have been able to see all like the advances in combines, and as well like I'm supposed to go to Vancouver, and it seems like I'll be able to go to the port and see where they do grain deliveries on the big container ships. But I'm just getting to know more of the infrastructure, but I haven't been on a farm as an employee. But I think that will change soon enough.
Nice.
But I mean, I work with farmers all the time because the organization is a commission that is farmer funded and farmer led. So
Yeah.
I meet with farmers all the time and have meetings with them and talk with them and I mean represent their concerns at the end of the day. So
Nice.
definitely try to at least keep pace with what's going on in their world.
Totally. At those expos, is that the places where like those like farmers get like those fancy like John Deere jackets and stuff, or like you know what I'm talking about? Like farmers have like it's like their version of like their Letterman jacket, but it's like John Deere or whatever tractor brand or.
Yeah, well, I think there's a joke about to get like people just go to those trade expos or go to the dealers to get a hat of the brand that they want to buy, but yeah, I think it's there. I mean, I think people go visit all the equipment and see all the new stuff coming out, and
Nice.
well, I guess just go inside and visit it. I don't know if they do much testing, but at least become aware of what's available on the market. And I think it's a family outing because when I went in like Red Deer and stuff, I mean, it was like full of kids and like people were, it was like whole family units were going. So it's quite the event.
Nice. It's a fun for all trade show.
It actually is pretty entertaining to see how like advanced the equipment is. It's pretty technically advanced. I
Hmm.
mean, I mean they're almost self-driving most of them and I
Wow.
mean there's a lot of work being done to make them completely automatic and self-driving where I think a lot of the farmers or in the next few years some of them will just be sitting on a chair or just reviewing what's happening and then they'll just be driving it with via remote control or something like that and the whole
Wow.
unit will work itself. But I mean, I think that because like I mean there is a labor issue in agriculture, so they're trying to make be as productive as possible despite uh concerns of like lack of labor. And so there's some great advancements out there. I mean, if you go on the John Deere website or New Holland or Case, I mean, you'll be impressed with us like the tractors and how much they can do like automatically and uh even without just like the farmer. I mean, I heard one farmer say that he just sits in the cab and he like looks on doom scrolls on Twitter while he's like harvesting in the field or something like that.
Wow.
Just be there if anything bad happens, but you can program your routes and you can basically just sit there and just make sure everything runs well, but the machine will drive itself.
That's crazy.
Yeah, as long as you have a good internet connection, I mean that's what matters the
It's like
most.
your modem is essential to people eating in the long run. Like if your modem's not working, you don't harvest properly and then people don't get
Well,
their
I mean, you
stuff.
just do it by hand. You just have
Oh.
to do it. You just
Oh.
have to do the old-fashioned way. I
But
mean, it still works,
okay.
but it's just like I think it's optimally, and it's like a lot easier and less strenuous to have the machine do it rather than
Yeah,
you having to drive for hours at like 5, 10 miles per hour or
I
something like
bet.
that, and just harvesting. I mean, it can be a long day for sure, especially if you have like inclement weather coming, that you might have a really long day.
Yeah. A lot more small scale than that, but I do landscaping kind of generally for work right
Urban
now.
farming.
Urban farming, yeah. There's a main street next to where I'm clipping off tree branches and stuff. So I was doing that yesterday. I was like taking down a bunch of shrubs, and my boss mentioned beginning of the day. He's like, I'm thinking of buying this like automated clipper thing. Like you just press a button and it goes like and like clips things off. But we'll see about that. You should be fine with the manual tool. And like it was great, just like like hedge clippers. And I took down a bunch of shrubs and no problem. It was I guess strenuous. I think I broke a sweat. It was And then today he's like, here, come over here. Look what I bought yesterday. And he bought that tool, and so I didn't get to use it yet. But it's just you press the button like, and it just like goes
No
way
way.
faster than I could have done it, and a lot better too. So it's kind of cool to see how much technology changes the game.
Yeah, well, it really just improves your productivity, or just you can do a lot more in less time, and
Yeah,
also just makes life a lot easier, right? I mean,
totally.
you don't have to spend the hours outside doing repetitive tasks. You can just, I mean, you still have to be outside in your case, but
Yeah.
just cut the time in half, and you can do a lot more and perhaps more precisely. But although there'll be a learning curve, I imagine.
Uh huh. Totally. I remember. I mean, this is different area of tech, but like Zoom, that's really changed the way that like I don't know. That was kind of pandemic made that go crazy. Everyone uses that. Will use that then, and people still use it a lot now. But it's a really great way for us to connect when we're not physically in person with each other. But it's great to have you actually here with me today. Despite we could have done this over Zoom, but it's great that we're in the same city and you're here, and it's awesome.
Yeah, well, I definitely prefer in person. I mean, I've had to work, well, I guess after doing a lot of schooling online and working remotely, and I just prefer being in person. I mean, it definitely helps both building connections and just I think making meetings more pleasant, and also you can focus a lot more.
Yeah.
Because like if you're also it's like when you're just talking to someone on a screen, it can be. I mean, I had to do like a lot of like job interviews that I do nowadays. I think seldomly they are in person. I remember in my last job hunt, I think all of them, like the first interview, were like online on Zoom
Oh wow.
or on Microsoft Teams, whichever platform worked better for the organization. But I don't think many interviews for a lot of I guess for the type of work I do, in person anymore. I mean, unless you like, I mean, have multiple rounds of interviews, which I've had to go through sometimes, and so they ask you to come in person. But
Yeah.
like you've already, I like for this job that I had, I've had to do like 3 interviews,
Oh wow.
and so the first two were on Zoom, and then my
Huh.
last one was in person, and I had to do a writing sample during the interview,
Oh wow.
so I had an hour to write something. So it was it was a lot of pressure, but I mean, it worked out obviously,
Yeah,
but.
totally.
Uh, I mean, I think probably for you, you'll just have to get used to do interviewing online. I mean, it's nice though. I
Yeah,
mean,
it
it's
is.
if you're like looking for jobs in a different city or whatever, I mean, it makes it a lot easier to search rather than having to go to different places to interview.
Totally. I remember we've done a fair share of Zoom meetings together. Specifically, when we lived together, we did like church online. We
Oh
did
yeah.
like Zoom church. And one of my favorite memories from that was I think we had both slept in a bit, but like we were on time for church. We got into the living room and stuff.
hmm
And we're just kind of chilling there. And this was in the bunker. Do you want to explain to the folks at home what the bunker was? Or
Well, I mean,
da
you
bunker?
you created the name, and was that's your you can take ownership of that. I mean, it was just the place we lived in Edmonton. I mean, it was just by the university campus, and it was
Yeah.
just like, well, it was a weird basement apartment. It had like 3 different levels. It had a level with the kitchen and the main entrance, then another level for the living room and like my bedroom and the bathroom, and then there was another level with like 3 different bedrooms.
Yeah. And like the kitchen was like really small, which is, not a big deal, which is like the whole floor was just the kitchen though.
Yeah, and I guess a
Because it
little
was
bit
like
of a small closet, but
yeah, it was like a basement suite attached to the guy's house. So fun times. But sorry, we were watching church in Da Bunker, and there was like a couple bees got in through the roof. Do you
oh,
remember this?
I I think I was there to help you, or maybe I was there. I
I
do
think you
remember there were a
killed
lot of
one.
wasps. Yeah, well, I remember. I think was it with Eric,
Right.
there, our friend Eric, that helped. I think you were watching church or something like that, and the wasps came in, and I came in after that, and I had to
Right.
help.
And did you trap it? I forget what happened.
I think we trapped it between the 2 window panes that
Right.
they had, but
I have these photo albums I was showing Jason before we started this, and I think in there the picture should be in there. It's you trapped it, and then Eric came over and we took a selfie on like this like disposable camera of like us next to the wasp trapped in the cup, and then he lifted the cup and the wasp was gone, and then I think he killed one or something. But fun times.
yeah,
Fun
I mean, I
times.
don't generally like wasps, so that period of time when wasps kept coming into the house like unexplainably just was kind of nerve-wracking.
Not a good
I
time.
was a little afraid of the living room most of the time.
Me too. I remember that. What good times. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast. And so today, you've mentioned you're in farming right now. We used to be roommates. You're a wasp assassin. You're a pro at all things economics,
Well,
economic
I like to say I'm more of a bush league economist, but
Yeah, but you've done a lot. You've moved to Alberta. You've been here for 5 years, and so today, just kind of broadly, I just want to talk about how we can find where we belong when we have a lot of changes going on in our life. I mean, you've had a lot of changes. I don't know, from 15 years ago to now. You've probably lived in a bunch of different places. You have lived in a bunch of different places and had a lot of different experiences. And you know, would you have ever imagined yourself 15 years ago being where you are now? Like, not for good or for bad, just like, would you have guessed you'd be living in Calgary doing this?
honestly, I mean, at 15, I don't know if how ambitious I was, but I mean, like my mom's from Alberta, and so I mean, I did think there was a chance, but honestly, like I had no big guesses where I would end up, where I didn't think I would have had resided in the variety of places I
Yeah.
have, and particularly, when like I served my mission in like Spain, which I never thought I would like there was never like a country on my bucket list
Yeah.
ever, and so getting sent there was, I mean, was a bit shocking because I just, like would have to learn Spanish, which I did not know at the time, but as well as just like live in a country I like knew nothing about except that they were a good soccer country, and just moving to like Alberta as well, and I mean I think that's like kind of what helped attract me here was because like when I was 15, I wasn't a member of the Church of
Oh yeah.
Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So the only connection I had to Alberta at the time was like through my mom and being familiar with the province, but not
Yeah.
really knowing much else about it. But
Wow.
it is like surprising how like you can imagine, especially as a like a teenager, like how life would turn out. But I mean, I think you're just like naive because you don't really have much life experience and don't
Yeah.
realize like how things like really work sometimes, but as well as just like what doors and opportunities like open up for you. And sometimes you're just like surprised like which ones like
Yeah.
do, because I mean, if I wasn't accepted to like any of the Alberta universities for like my master's degree, I don't know if I would have come. I might have gone to like Manitoba or
Yeah.
stayed in Ontario or gone, maybe to the States or something like that. But
Totally. A lot of different opportunities. I mean, it's a choose your. It is quite literally a choose your own adventure life. I mean, life is an adventure. You get to choose where you go, but there's a lot of different factors at play that kind of bring us to the places that we end up. I would like to talk about briefly, at least, the first, I guess, big change in your life after high school, and I mean, to my knowledge, at least, in joining the church. You were at McGill University, if I'm not.
yeah, that's right.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
good
remember
memory.
that. But tell me about that. I don't remember much else about the context.
Ah, well, so I mean, I was 19, or I guess like 18, 19 at the time. So I mean, I was fresh out of high school, as you said. And I mean, I ran into like just, I think a lot of like just struggles I've been having in my life, I think just came to like fruition or just kind of blew up in my face. I mean, I think it's like when you transition from like high school to university, I mean, for me, I struggled with like university or high school, you could just kind of slack or just do things than like the night before, or
Yeah.
like it was a lot easier to get results in high school, and as well as the teachers care about you like a little bit more. I
Yeah.
mean, especially if you're in a small class of like 20, 25 kids, it's a lot easier to like a lot easier to be like the teacher, like to talk to you and or like at least have a relationship with the teacher. But in university, when you're in first year, you have classes of hundreds of students,
Yeah.
and you might have maybe like 3 hours a week or something like that to learn like in class, and then you're expected to do all these things yourself. So I mean, I struggled with that. That was like one thing that really like shook me, and then just as well just like just personal issues and family
Yeah.
issues. I think just like those take a toll on you, and like when you don't deal with them, like sooner or later something's going to break. I think you can't like outrun your problems. And so I think that first year I was like really struggling, and I mean, I like after my first semester I was on like academic probation, which
Oh, really?
yeah, I mean I wasn't like the best student I could have been, and as well as just I was not focusing at all on school. And so I kind of like in the second semester I tried to like figure things out, and I think I like hit a low, and I was just like trying to figure out like what I wanted to do with my life, and what type of life I wanted to live, because I knew like there was more out there. And it's I always kind of had like faith in God. I mean, I was like baptized and like raised Catholic,
Mm-hmm.
although typical Catholic where you're just like baptized and confirmed, and then you just kind of go to church on at once in a blue moon, and
Yeah.
you just kind of like familiar with the Bible and stuff.
Yeah.
But I was like kind of like had that feeling as like I wanted to bring God more into my life, and just like wanted to build a relationship. So I mean, I was like looking through, just finding God through different like Christian but like denominations and like other like religious uh systems and beliefs. I mean, or like different religions, like such as the Baha'i faith. And then I just like for some reason I really connected well with like the teachings of the church, and uh, just basically kind of like found the missionaries, and they taught me, and it didn't take too long. I mean, it took about 6 weeks, and I was
Yeah.
baptized.
Wow.
But I mean, I think like one thing is like just like I noticed is just like I was willing to make a change. I mean, I think like I was struggling in life, and so I was ready to make those changes. And I mean, the willingness is important, I think, to take the first step, but like baptism is only like the door. But if you're really going to continue down like the path of eternal life, or just even just trying to be a faithful like believer of Jesus Christ, I mean, it just requires a lot of effort throughout the rest of your life, and
Totally.
there'll be a lot of the ups and downs, of course. I mean, and you won't be perfect, and you have to work through that and overcome yourself. But I mean, it is a worthwhile journey, and
Yeah.
that has like blessed me, and I think it also helped open up a lot more opportunities for me because I don't think I was like heading anywhere good, and I think it provided a lot of direction or like helped me focus, but or provided like a good foundation to figure out life, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Totally. Yeah, like that found like those values. I guess not. I mean, they're your own values, but that I guess that basis that the church can, or just church or religion in general can provide, to help you to have that basis of values and I guess well a sense of community as well.
Hmm.
How have you found that? I mean, in your time first joining the church in Quebec, I guess, right? That would be
Hmm.
Quebec, and then Madrid and your mission in Alberta. Like, how has that all helped you feel connected to others, having that church connection?
Yeah, well, I would say it's like been fairly vital when I've moved to new places, like especially moving to Alberta, and Edmonton was my first stop, and I didn't know. I mean, I had like only a cousin living in Edmonton, but basically within like the first few days of like arriving to Edmonton, I mean, it was Sunday, and so I attended church, and I luckily went to the right ward, and everyone was like super nice, and was able to like make friends and build connections pretty fast that I'm still like friends with today, which
Yeah.
is sometimes you don't really expect, but uh, I mean, I think it's like a good avenue to like find community, which like helps like become more connected to an area, or like at least feel more comfortable in a place. I mean, I think in Calgary, I mean, the ward like I attend now is has been really kind and really welcoming, and it's been easy to feel more at ease in Calgary. But like in Edmonton was the same, or when I did like my internship in Japan as well, like finding the church was like super key in helping me survive, because like I thought I came in like a little bit blind, but I think like the culture shock was a bit big. But luckily though, I was able to find like an English congregation there of like fellow members, and so I was able to make some friends there and connections, and that was like super helpful as well. And
Wow.
uh, that helped me like develop friendships and navigate Japan, or navigate Alberta, or when I returned from my mission, most of my friends from high schools, or the friends from high school I cared to interact with, that like they had moved to different cities. Like not many of them were like living in Ottawa anymore. So I think that also helped me, get back into, uh, I mean, to I guess stay like active in the church. I mean, I think it helps, or at least helps you want to get to church when you like know people there and you kind of like them at least.
Yeah, totally.
And as well just like feeling like welcome and people like want you there, like being in a place where people like do seem to enjoy your presence, and as well just getting involved in a community when you first move somewhere new. It can be an easy gateway to the community as well.
Totally. Yeah, I think the church is awesome for, I mean, wherever you go. I mean, I mean, you know this is not new to you, but I lived in Arizona for a couple years as a missionary, and that was really awesome. I mean, I was there in context and, as a full-time representative for
Hmm.
the church. And so, it was a really, really amazing experience to see the similarities between, I mean, honestly, Albertan culture and Arizona culture are different, but honestly not too much. I mean, they're not too far from each other. But even though I was 24 hours driving distance away from my house, it wasn't too hard to find connections and meaningful relationships with people that I served around and people that I just interacted with every day, and even just like more broadly, not just with the church, but just kind of in just shared senses of values that you're able to find with people no matter where you go.
Hmm.
I feel like that's helped me a lot to transition to a lot of different changes, or I guess moving to new places in my life or everything like that. I guess, applied to my mission, like changes, and like I'd move from one area to another, and I'd be surrounded with like all new people and all different new personalities and everything, but just finding common ground with the missionary companions I had and people that I taught and served and everything, that really, really helped me to feel more at home and feel like the places that I was serving in was my home. And even I think, oh yeah, way back in 2021 when we were roommates, I mean, I was a little bit anxious at the beginning to be moving in there because I didn't know you were our roommate Piers. Shout out to Piers. Piers Jennifer Hatch. We gave him a. I don't actually know his. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. I don't know his real middle name anymore. I just gave him the middle name Jennifer, and that's not his real middle name. But, you know.
Yeah, I forget his middle name as
You were
well.
Jasen Elizabeth, right? Oh no, I was Connor Elizabeth.
Yeah, I don't remember my.
Did you have
We
one?
kept giving each other names. It was quite the.
I think I did that like a week you were gone. So I
Oh,
think me and Piers had those. Anyways, sorry. But even there, like, that's a good example. I felt at home with you guys, and I felt very connected, and I had purpose, and I had just meaningful relationships that helped me keep on going, and it helped me feel like I belonged, which was super good. So just aside from just the community aspect of it, just mentally and I guess personally, how have you prepared yourself, or how have you coped with having changes in your living situation and your circumstances, and just how have you been able to manage rolling with the punches, good and bad, of life over the last while in your life?
I mean, I think it begins with having faith that things will turn out well. I mean, does that does help. I think to at least put you in an optimistic mood that things will work out. Because I think if you don't come into the right like mind frame, then I think things can basically it will like manifest itself. If you're like with a negative vision or negative belief, I think you'll just like things will manifest or you'll interpret everything in the wrong lens. But I think as well, like after that, I mean, it's just like preparation. And I mean, once you do it like once, I think it's you become more accustomed to it and you kind of begin to know a little bit more what to expect. And I think just realizing that you'll like being realistic that it just like won't be like the easiest thing. But I think if you like put yourself out there and you just try to like make new connections or just try to make the most out of the situation, whatever the situation is, that I think there'll be like a follow through at the
Yeah.
end. And I mean, as well as just like being resilient and being patient. And I mean, that comes from experience and just like realizing things just don't happen in one day or two. That I think at the beginning of the conversation we're just talking about like little decisions that like lead you somewhere. And like a past prophet of the church, Thomas S. Monson said, "Decisions determine destiny." Or if I misquoted him, then I
That's a good
apologize.
quote. No, you're good. That's
But
correct.
that I mean, ultimately, it's just like every small decision that you make will ultimately lead to bigger ones. And if you try to make good decisions and try to make think about things and be reflective, and as well just do your best to be kind and friendly to other people, that I mean hopefully like you'll make friends. I mean, you can't control other people, but I mean, as you treat people well and you're as well just like show genuine interest in them, you'll start making friends. And if you go to work somewhere and if you're like moving somewhere for a job or for school and you work hard, I mean, other doors will open for you, and it just kind of snowballs from there. So I mean, I guess like ultimately to answer your questions, I mean, it's a confluence of a lot of different things intersecting at one point in time. Like there's not one particular piece of advice I could give. I mean, but ultimately is if you have faith for like that things will work out and you work hard and are patient and resilient, then ultimately things seem to work out, or at least that's been my experience. But sometimes, I mean, there'll be setbacks and you just kind of have to roll with the punches. I mean, a
Totally.
setback is not the end of the world. I mean, although sometimes they can be harsh, but
Yeah.
you just got to roll with the punches. And I mean, that sounds like a bit flippant to say, but it's kind of true at its most core.
Yeah. I'm basically the same age as you, basically, right? I've
Almost.
just had a couple less years of experience in the real world, quote unquote. But I can think of a lot of examples, and I graduated high school 4 years ago, which seems like forever ago, but maybe that's actually not too long ago. I don't know. But like March 2020, I was just chilling. I was teaching swimming lessons, and I was doing school, about to graduate high school, and I was enrolled in university the next year. Just kind of like, yeah, things are working out. And then Friday afternoon, we're like, oh, sick, we get like an extra week off of school. And then COVID happened and I never went back to high school. I still haven't been back inside that high school, but good high
Probably
school.
for the best.
Shout out to my high school. It was a great place. But yeah, maybe not good. Just wandering the halls of my high school. That'd be interesting. I might get in trouble. But that happened, and then school was all online, and then I knew I wanted to go on a mission, but then just the timing of it ended up being different because I just took some time to decide on that, and I lived in Edmonton, and I lived in Da Bunker. That was a really pivotal place for me, and I went on a mission, and I got reassigned to a different spot in Canada first before going to Arizona with some visa issues, and now I'm here, and then I've completely switched what program I'm doing in school and everything. It's just, there's a lot of changes that go on, a lot of new places you live, and a lot of just, punches, I guess. I mean, I keep using that lingo, but there's just a lot of unexpected stuff that comes in life. But I love what you're saying about that, just having the faith that things are going to work out. And, it is kind of scary when you're looking at the whole map of your life and trying to map it all out. But I think just kind of reiterating what you've told me, it's just like you're helping me. You are, looking at all these things in the future is great. But I think just experiencing it is where I found in my 4 years of real world experience has helped me to have more clarity with things. When I just kind of put one foot in front of the other and just go for it.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think like none of us know like what's ahead, so you kind of have to put like a foot ahead of the other and just hope like the path will, I guess, become enlightened, or maybe, or like
enlightened,
something like that. But I mean, just like talking about like I guess observing you during that time in Edmonton in 2021. I mean, I was like impressed with how willing you were to like put yourself out there and try your best at school, and as well just like developing friendships and connections. So I mean, I can understand why it was like a pivotal time, but I mean, you put in the effort and you reap the rewards of it, or at least that's what I observed. And maybe I'm incorrect in my observations, but that's like from the outside looking in. I mean, that seemed to be the case. And yeah, I mean, I was like, definitely you were like a good example to me, despite like the age gap.
Which is like by a 2-year age gap, basically. That's all it is.
Years.
So that's
2 years multiplied by another 2 or something like that. But I like really enjoyed having you as a roommate. But I mean, as well, I was just like impressed with, I guess, the maturity you were displaying at that age, and like what you were able to accomplish in that little time. But yeah, I mean, it's not easy. Like sometimes, I mean, those new experiences. I mean, I think that's like when you put I guess like someone told me, like when you put yourself out of your comfort zone. I mean, that's where the most growth happens. And I think internalizing that lesson has like really helped me, be open to new experiences. And it's like even I don't know, there's this movie with Jim Carrey called The Yes Man.
Oh, yeah.
Some people
seen a little bit of it, yeah.
I mean, it's an all right movie, but I mean, the concept is just like this person just says yes to every experience, and all these things happen to him. And I think as well as just like having an open mind and saying yes to whatever opportunity does come up to itself. Like, I don't think I ever would have moved to Edson, Alberta, a city that I didn't even know existed until like
Is it a city?
Actually, that was I'm incorrect. I apologize to all the Edsonites. It's a town.
Okay, I was just curious.
But like, I mean, it's a town of like 8,000-9,000, and I mean, I've always lived in mostly major centers. I mean, I've lived in Ottawa. I mean, I guess it's becoming a city of 1 million, and then like Edmonton is about 1 million. I've lived in large centers where I've had to commute 20-25 minutes to get anywhere, and then I live in Edson, and it's like, I mean, I'm 5 minutes away from anything.
Yeah.
And I live also in the boonies where I can see the mountains and, live in the, like, near the woods, and there's all this wildlife there. And I mean, it was a great experience, but I don't think if I was like closed-minded, I don't think I would have ever learned what it's like to live in a small town, but as well, just like all the great friendships and all the great experiences I was blessed with over there if I wasn't open to something new.
Totally. How have you just been able, right here, right now, how have you been able to find community and purpose and meaning and belonging here?
Well, I mean, everything, it's still a work in progress. I mean, nothing gets settled. I mean, I guess if you, depending like what type of attitude you have, for me, I mean, I always try to improve and try to work on things progressively. I mean, I think like what's helped is I've been able to connect with people at work. I mean, I do spend a lot of time there. I mean, if you think about it, like I spend like, I mean, I do have to travel for work and be away from most of the folks, but you know, if you're spending like 40, 50 hours a week,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's a good chunk of time. I mean, I think it's like the church again has helped a lot. Uh, and also being given opportunities to serve in the church as well just helps you get to know people, but as well, you know, helps you find some purpose. And then I think it's just like being open to like just finding different things to get involved with or looking for volunteer opportunities. I mean, I've been trying to find them, and I mean, I found them mostly in our
Yeah,
church, but
good place.
but I think is like finding other ways to get involved in the community or finding different hobbies that you want to get involved in, and as well, I think is just like exploring the city. I mean, Calgary is like a nice city. I mean, although I would debate anyone that I don't know how, like, if it's much better than Edmonton, but that's like a controversial opinion that I would say they're on par with each other in a lot of respects. But that, I mean, there's a lot of good things to explore and there's good events to see, and just finding like just your stuff that you're interested in, going out there and doing different things, and as well just even like taking classes or trying to keep learning if it's, you know, spiritual or like in an educational setting or a skill that you want to learn as well that helps you build a community. I mean, I think my answer is like fairly nebulous, but I mean overall, I mean, I think just like getting out there and just getting to know people and finding my areas of interest. I've been able to find ways to feel at ease and comfortable and enjoy Calgary, and
Totally.
trying to make at least the most of my experience. I mean, I think it's just being able to find people who like share similar passions with you, but as well as just saying yes to like opportunities that come to you and being open, and just like trying to make like those everyday decisions that will ultimately snowball, and being like thoughtful and purposeful in your decision making, and as well just having a genuine interest in people will help overall. I mean, I know it's a lot of advice at once, but I think it's like when you're moving like across the country or moving to a different country, it's, you know, does require a lot from people, and I think that's why like a lot of people don't ultimately do it. I mean, I know a lot of people who haven't even like left away from their hometown, or who have never like even moved across the country, or have like, or maybe moved a few hours away from home, but like making those big moves where you're starting completely fresh is not so as I've gotten older, I've realized like not a lot of people really do that or take that uncomfortable road, and I don't think it's for everyone, because can be somewhat hard to like just being that fully self-reliant and not necessarily being able to rely on a lot of other people, but it is a worthwhile experience, and it can be fairly enjoyable, and can have really like unique experiences and memories in your life.
Totally. Well, thank you so much. That's a really great answer. Honestly, this whole episode has really just been me absorbing all of your advice, and I get to look back and edit this afterwards, and shout out to my software that gives me a transcript of it so I can read it, and like I can have like a quote by you on my wall of like how to find belonging, and I can have like an inspirational picture of you. It'll be amazing. But
well, hopefully I'm not too verbose. I feel
no,
like
no,
that's
you're
a struggle
good.
I have in my life.
You're good.
My manager the other day joked like I had to do a brief, and it's like I still haven't learned the concept of being brief. But it's like, well, I mean, I did furnish the excuse that is like I did provide 2 appendices to it, but I mean it doesn't. But
it is a brief, and it wasn't a brief, but no, I appreciate it. I'll have a quote from this on my wall someday.
Oh wow,
maybe not,
well,
but
I'll be honored to be on your wall. And
awesome.
Thank you for inviting me on the podcast.
Yes, for sure. And as I ask all of my guests, you're my second guest ever. What's next for you? What's next what big projects do you have coming up?
Oh
You're not a
goodness.
movie star, but maybe you do have a movie coming up. I don't know.
Uh, Big plans. I mean, I think it's just yeah, surviving work. I always have I guess always the fear that I'm not performing well enough, so I always try to perform or try to push myself to do well. But I mean, I think I'm like in that intersection right now where I'm trying to figure out what's my next step. So I guess short story long that I which I just made is that I think is just in a period of reflection, just trying to make the best of like the opportunity I have now, but as well as just like enjoy life, travel, and go to
Totally.
different concerts and just enjoy hopefully a not non-smoky summer.
Totally. Hopefully there's no forest fires. Totally. There's always changes in life, always stuff to do, always things to learn. Awesome. Well, we don't hear it right now, but in the background, there's like some lo-fi hip hop going on now
Oh,
to
nice.
listeners at home, and so we're fading out. So, any last comments? It'll be super quiet in listeners' ears, but
Yeah, well, it's been a pleasure. I mean, it's been a blessing getting to know you, Connor, over the past few years, and so
yeah,
it's been a pleasure to chat here today in podcast form as an active podcast
in my
listener.
parents'
It's,
basement, but it's
well,
fun.
you got to start somewhere,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
I'm still waiting for the call from the economist to get on their podcast, but that's still a few
Next
years
week,
away.
next week.
Hopefully,
Next
knock
year,
on wood,
maybe,
right?
yeah. But yeah, so we're fading out. They can't really hear us, and thank you for listening. Peace out.